Scott Flood, thank you for having us. REVERB, thank you for having us. This is a wonderful, wonderful venue. We're glad everything is held off, and thank you all for being here tonight. And you know what? I got to say, like, special shout out to the Charlotte supporters.
Absolutely.
Here tonight. And that is so cool. Thank you for coming. And we're going to talk tactics in a second. I like the fact that the rivalry, if there is one, that has kind of developed between Atlanta and, say, Charlotte and Nashville has been a very respectful, mutually uplifting rivalry. And I think we're going to have a great match tomorrow because, you know, 2 of the 3 matches that these teams have played against each other so far have been very, very good.
Yeah, this is a rivalry, and that's fine. That's a good thing. I don't think we have to run from that word. It's a rivalry because it's easy to travel back and forth. It's a rivalry because there's going to be a good number of Charlotte fans here, just like there were Atlanta fans in Charlotte. That adds a little something extra to these games. That's a good thing.
And honestly, the games have been competitive, which makes it more enjoyable. We will give the anomaly of the last time the 2 sides played.
We'll
that
see if
wasn't
it's an
as
anomaly. I don't know yet.
It was a difficult one to call. I'm not going to lie. The post-game show wasn't as enjoyable as I would have liked it to have been.
Here's the thing. I mean, Jess works for Charlotte FC, but Jess is a part of the Atlanta soccer community, isn't she? I mean, come on. Like,
I may or may not have a tattoo of Georgia on my foot.
Yeah, right. I mean, you're one of us, even if you aren't necessarily tomorrow. Okay, so we're going to talk about tactics. Atlanta United against Charlotte. This is going to be really fun for me because Jason and Jess are not only 2 people I respect immensely, and I get a chance to work with Jason on a weekly basis, but I just love hearing these 2 share their thoughts about the game. So this is going to be a lot of fun. I want to start with this, and maybe Jason, I'll kind of toss this one out at you.
Okay.
Back in March up in Charlotte, it felt like Atlanta United was in their best moments of that match when they were pressing or counter-pressing against Charlotte, that they got Charlotte visibly shaken. And the first Caleb Wiley goal was a product of a moment of pressure. Now we're 11 matches into the season. I think Charlotte has kind of figured out that maybe some of the players they were bringing off the bench that day are players that they should now be starting, and they are. So does the dynamic change now in match day 12 because the personnel for Charlotte might be a little bit different?
I don't think tactically it does. I think the quality side of it will. But, I mean, look, when you're on the road, you're maybe not exactly how you are at home. And that's something that we have to understand because games aren't played on paper or in a video game. Like, when you travel, you're in a different mindset. You're in a different comfort level. And I think in this one, my question is on Charlotte's side, how true do they stay to their identity? Because the identities, I think, for the 2 teams, and I want to hear your take on this, Jess, I think they're really similar. I think both teams want the ball. I think both teams want to build out of the back. I think both teams look for different things they accentuate in the attacking half, but they both want to play good soccer. On the road, sometimes teams don't always stay as true to that ideal. And how true will Charlotte do that as your fan club is going?
Hey, I'm only blushing a little bit. Thank you. I would say, actually, during Charlotte's success, they've moved away from the complete determination of possessing the ball as much as they were doing. As anyone that's watched Charlotte FC this season, they've been their own worst enemy in a lot of moments by trying to force playing out the back. And if you look statistically right now, starting to go a little bit more direct in moments when they're under pressure. I think having seen how Atlanta United were able to rattle them with that press, we may see them with a little bit more of a freedom to go long. Earlier on in the season, it looked very forced. It looked very contrived. It looked like they had to play ticky-tacky around the back. Left back had to go to right back to center back. Now we're seeing a little bit more of a direct play, and it's worked in our favor. We've almost switched the game a little bit and tried, particularly against teams like NYCFC, to force them to possess and then catch them off guard. And I'm wondering if we may try to utilize that against Atlanta United. The other thing I look at as well, we talked about the personnel. We had the Bronico left back experiment going on last time we played Atlanta United.
That's true.
I'm very glad to announce, Atlanta United fans might not like this, but that experiment is no longer taking place.
I liked that experiment.
Yeah, I mean, you did. We were not fans of it. We now have a left back that understands the role, and now Bronico is more likely to be in that holding midfield position where he belongs.
Yeah, where he's a problem.
And I think that's going to be an interesting battle between Armada, between Bronico, because we lacked control in the midfield during that game. We need someone that's going to be able to silence the playmaker, because that is where teams have had success against Atlanta United. When you're able to cut off the strings, when you're able to cut off the service, where else do you find to step up? And I think Charlotte will have done their research a little better, and they'll understand, hey, we need to circle that playmaker and make sure Bronico is in his pocket every time.
Speaking of personnel, Capetti is out.
Mm-hmm.
Jones is out, both on yellow card accumulation. Those
A striker that has the most fouls on the entire team by like 10.
I like strikers like that.
But I'm with Jason. I like that profile of striker. But that's your leading goal scorer and two of your top three leaders in minutes played. So this is not insignificant. Who's the bigger absence, in your opinion, tomorrow?
It's a really tough one because there's not like-for-like players.
Right.
I think the issue with Enzo Capetti is now that he's hitting form, he's got that chip on his shoulder. You just wanted him to be able to get that rhythm. It felt like he was going to be a problem against Atlanta United, a handful. The other thing about Enzo Capetti is even if he's not scoring goals, he's occupying defenders because they're terrified of him. You look on the field and on screen captures all the time when Charlotte's in the attacking third, and he's double teamed. And when you have two defenders occupying one player, that leaves a lot of space for everybody else. The other skill of Enzo Capetti is defending set pieces. And we know Atlanta United loves a good set piece. Corner kick goals, all of this, you're deadly. Enzo Capetti is our front post man that heads everything clear. No like-for-like sub from him, which is concerning. But DJ, Derek Jones, the enforcer.
Right.
Most tackles on the team in the defensive third. Most tackles on the team in the middle of the park as well. That is a concern for me, that you're losing that guy that puts in the challenges, but underrated part of Derek Jones's game, and you attest to this too, is his composure that he brings.
Yeah.
And I worry about us losing that composure in a tough competitive game, that you won't have that guy that you can trust to just hold the ball, to allow your side to breathe.
Yeah, because, I mean, look, Charlotte's going to maybe pick their spots more than they tried to up there. They're not going to be as demanding about building out of the back. But there's times where you have to have that composure and that quality on the ball, especially in the midfield against an Atlanta United who is very good with counter pressure.
And we've got our fifth center-back pairing of the season. Fifth.
Wow.
Fifth center-back pairing.
And your goalkeeper has also
And we've
changed a
played
couple
three
times.
You've played three goalkeepers as well. Let's be real
That's true.
here. So,
Yeah, what is the deal with goalkeepers in this matchup?
I
Jeez.
guess goalkeepers in the South just like to rotate through each other.
Hey, Brad Gazan tried to get back for this game because he's a maniac.
Yeah.
Honestly,
Guy is so far ahead of schedule, like they threw the schedule out.
the fact
It's
that
insane.
Brad will never die in a nice way, like it's very impressive that he won't lay down. Like most people at his stage of his career would have probably said, F it, I'm going to go be a broadcaster, I'm going to go be a coach. His willingness to want to get back to fight for the city is impressive. And I'm actually kind of glad that he's not going to be playing, because he played very well when we faced each other last.
He's got a presence. He's got a huge presence. And I think when he's in the team and at home, it's good that he will be around the team in this one. His presence is huge for this team. And it's not always just dealing with crosses, where I think he's very good, better than the other two goalkeepers in the team. Good with distribution. It's presence. And you mentioned it with Capetti. And I think that's a big storyline in this game, because it's something Atlanta United has dealt with. Presence. No Yorgos Giacomakis for a while now. And Yorgos absolutely is that kind of big presence. He draws attention. He makes you deal with him. He's not going to stop running off the ball. He's not going to stop pressing you. He gets under your skin a little bit. Those two are actually really similar, and neither one is going to factor in this game from the start. We know Capetti's not. I can't imagine that Yorgos does, when he only trained fully on Thursday.
Yeah, and I think that Charlotte FC fans will be very relieved about that fact, because it would have been a challenge, particularly with our centre-back pairing. You're looking at Malanda, who picked up an injury last week, couldn't finish the game, gave away a penalty. Very young, 21 years old, but has been our leader when your leading center back is 21
Yeah.
years old, that shows you where Charlotte FC has that issue with experience. The one blessing, though, for the Crown right now is that Christian Kalina is back in goal, and he's looking sharp right now. Had back surgery in the offseason. As a goalkeeper myself, was a little bit concerned. How will that affect the way he plays? You need your back. It's a very important part of your body when it comes to goalkeeping, when it comes to springing back. He looks very, very good in the 2 games that he has played. He looks athletic. He looks confident. His distribution has improved. And what I like about Kalina, kind of like Guzan, is that he's a lot better at coming to cut out those crosses, about being aggressive. He's experienced. George Marks has done a good job, but I think Kalina is that elevation of goalkeeper just because of the experience and leadership organization that he brings to the back line.
Jason, I think you touched on this a little already with Bronico having to play left back the last time these teams met. But it felt like in March, Atlanta United was finding its most joy down the flanks. Not necessarily from crosses, but just dribbling. Caleb twice, once off a moment of pressure, but twice producing a goal from a wide position. Aruju producing a goal from a wide position. Etienne getting into the game, and match state obviously a factor, but still affecting the game from a wide position in the second half. And I feel like in the last couple Atlanta United matches, it's been harder for them to get production. I want to also mention Miguel Berry, someone who was very, very effective in wide positions, even though he was playing center forward against Charlotte. Well, now you're not running at Bronico. You haven't had a lot of joy from the wide positions lately. Is this a potential opportunity tomorrow to refine that magic from wide
I hope not.
spots? With all due respect, yes. I predicted, by the way, a 2-2 or 3-2 score.
You did not predict 2-2.
Well, it could be 2-2.
He predicted a 3-2 Atlanta win with a 90-plus heartbreaker.
I do think there will be a shocker to win this game. I just hope it's by us and not Charlotte. But anyhow, wide positions.
I think the way that Atlanta doesn't have to rely on a late goal is in the wide positions. I think it's what makes Atlanta elite when they play like an elite team, because they have the best fullback group in the league. Brooks Lennon is possibly the most underrated Atlanta United player of all time.
I agree.
And Lennon is the best right back in Major League Soccer this year. And he just doesn't get the love, except for luckily this table, that he deserves, because Lennon has been, we know how good he is with service. We know what he does getting forward, but it's the 1v1 defending this year where he's shutting people down. So when you've got Lennon on one side and then on the left, you're blessed with either Caleb Wiley or Andrew Gutman at fullback. You're in a really good spot. And Ronald Hernandez is a Venezuelan international as your backup right back. So you've got lots of possibilities and permutations there. When Atlanta has been their best this season, it's been when the wide players have stood up and had big days. And Charlotte game was one of them. And I think that's what you have to try to exploit. You use the central part of the field to combine to create the opportunities you want out wide, whether that's Lennon overlapping and creating a 2v1, whether that's Gutman with the underlap, which can be really hard to deal with. And you've got to figure out the wingers. I mean, because they fit into this equation too. Araujo and Etienne, ideally, you're playing inverted wingers. So Araujo's cutting in on his left foot, Etienne's cutting in on his right. We have seen lately Gonzalo Pineda try to flip that and see how it looks when Araujo's playing wide on his left foot and Etienne's playing wide on his right foot. That can be a nice change of pace, but I think the way this team is built is the overlapping runs, creating 2v1s against fullbacks, and I like that matchup against Charlotte.
It's a huge mismatch. When you look at Charlotte FC this season, fullbacks has been a huge issue for us. We've had a huge amount of rotation with our fullbacks, not knowing who our best players are. And then in this system where you play the pinched-in fullbacks, it creates a lot of space. Now, there are benefits.
An inverted fullback.
Yeah. The inverted fullback. It creates space for you guys to attack in and behind. And unfortunately, our fullbacks haven't had the positional awareness when they don't have the ball to get back on those transitions. And a lot of the goals we've conceded, you look at, and our fullbacks are still out of position. And when you're playing against elite overlapping fullbacks, that's going to be very difficult for us to handle. The one grace that we have developed through this season as Charlotte FC improves is our wingers getting better at getting back and offering the support. Good news for us, Kamil Jozwiak's going to be back, a guy that's been very highly critiqued, and rightly so with the numbers earlier on in the season.
Look, Jozwiak and Araujo, really similar storylines, I think, for both, in that they've both underperformed a transfer fee or a contract, but both are actually incredibly hard workers defensively.
And I think now Jozwiak is getting the numbers in terms of the goals, in terms of the assists, and people are starting to turn their heads. But we've been praising him since the beginning of the season for that work rate. Leads the team in terms of wingers in those tackles, in those defensive challenges, in interceptions. A very key player. And we did not look like the same side without him on the pitch. Came back against Orlando in the cup game and was able to shine, was able to get his goal, able to display a different style of his game as well. The little cheeky chip. We hadn't seen that confidence from him. And I think anytime you try and chip a goalkeeper that's coming out to you, it shows that you're at that level of your game, that level of confidence that you can be very, very dangerous.
So let's go a step further. We don't have the salt and pepper shakers to draw this out, but picture it in your mind. So if Atlanta's able to get the fullbacks forward and look like they're trying to create 2v1s, and the wingers have to drop to deal with that, so it's a 2v2. When that happens and the ball turns over, how does Charlotte get out when the wingers are pinned back? Because that also plays into Atlanta's hands a little bit, because you can counter press. What's the corresponding move for Charlotte to get out of their own half?
The key right now is Ashley Westwood, and the return of Ashley Westwood has already leapfrogged every single player in our team. 6 games he's played and is leading in progressive passes. Top of the table in progressive passes, leapfrogged from 3rd into 1st just by playing against NYCFC. He changed the game. He's able to find that splitting pass. He's able to use that elite understanding of finding a pass that no one else can see, cutting passes. You look at the first assist that he had against NYCFC. The weight of that pass to put it in the stride of McKenzie Gaines so he can touch it one time across the goal, it was sublime. And we have missed his distribution. We have missed his composure on the ball. And we've also missed his leadership. And considering it's his first season and he's coming in, he's done a very good job of pulling the strings for his team. And I think Jason and I were talking a lot this season about the fact our defenders, our center backs have been the players that have touched the ball most. And a lot of that is because we haven't had a player that's been willing to check in, that's been willing to take that risk to receive the ball. An armada, if you like to say, that is willing to look for those passes, that doesn't care if he's got a player behind him, is still going to check in and receive that pass. Ashley Westwood is that player that is going to link up the defense to the offense through the midfield, and we have been missing that piece of the puzzle that allows us to transition better out of defensive situations.
How are we doing on time, by the way? I want to make sure we're not taking anyone's time. How are we doing?
Oh, we're good.
We're good? Okay. So one thing Jess, that I really like and respect about Charlotte, they don't play pragmatically on the road.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to be conservative tomorrow, right?
I think I wouldn't say conservative. I think there's going to be a little bit of minimizing the risk, having had your ego kind of stead on a little bit. I think, let's be honest, you have a very humbling experience when you lose 3-0, first half, concede 3 goals, you're 3-0 down at halftime against your rival.
Like that was so long ago, though. You know, like I feel like that was ages ago, even though it wasn't. But it does feel that way.
And I think, though, the issue, we talk about form, and we're in great form right now, but the issue with Charlotte has been the consistency. You look at it, and you have a great performance against Columbus Crew at home, but then you go to D.C., and you get your butts whooped by Wayne Rooney, which isn't great, you know?
You talk about pragmatic. I mean, that's how they fixed everything in D.C. Just got simple. Went kind of old school, maybe old school English, you know?
Route one,
direct. Played at Benteke. Hey. Make it simple.
Hit a bicycle kick like Benteke can do. You know,
when you can break that out occasionally.
I think they're not going to be pragmatic, but I think they're going to be smart and expect a very tentative first 15 minutes. Because when you look at what happened against Atlanta United in their place, you concede in the 4th minute. And from then on, it was downhill.
Right.
I think you cannot afford to concede a goal early in this stadium. Because with these incredible fans, the minute you get that goal, Charlotte FC is going to drop. and it's going to be very difficult to fight back if you concede one.
Yeah, that's the key for me for Atlanta United is how they start. And it's not necessarily about working the ball around to create that opportunity and score a goal. It's about forcing a turnover and going the short route.
Individual error has been a big issue for Charlotte FC. You look at the goals we've conceded, 6, maybe 7 could be considered individual errors, mistakes.
Same number, maybe more for Atlanta. I mean, I think that's when you play the way that both of these teams want to play. And yeah, Charlotte's gotten a little more conservative. I wouldn't call them a conservative team. I think Christian Latanzio still,
it's balanced.
yeah, it's more balanced, and that happens in a season once you get through the first third and you figure out, like, this is where I want the team to be. I can't really get them there right now. I got to get some results. So you dial it down a notch. You take a step back. You turn the volume down a little bit on the possession, those little things. I think for Atlanta United, like, they're kind of in a different route where they want to turn that volume up. They want to get even more into who they are. The Chicago game was the least that Atlanta United looked like themselves, and you still got to win out of it. And that's what you have to do in those situations. I thought Nashville was a step in the right direction. Miami was a very good step in the right direction in terms of control of the match. Moments hurt you, a penalty, a goal. It was very well worked, and that's it. But the play, and you've got to look at the overall play, Atlanta United is getting back to where they want to be. And now when you get back home to do that, you add in that element you just talked about. If you get an early goal, this game is radically different than it is when we're talking about it right now.
And my fear as well is set pieces. We've talked about the stats. Yeah. We do a lot of stabbing. We've conceded a lot of disappointing set pieces. You look at the penalties we've given away, and it's from stabbing. It's from players playing out of position a lot of the time, slotting back midfielders into defensive positions where you get away with those challenges as a midfielder on the halfway line. You're not going to get away with them in other places. You take out Enzo Capetti, who's been one of your best defenders from set pieces. You throw in the fact you're changing your back line, your goalkeeper, the communication might not quite be there for set pieces. It's a concern to me how many set pieces you can afford to give up to an Atlanta United that always looks dangerous from those opportunities. On the flip side, Charlotte FC finally starting to look more dangerous from set pieces. One of my pet peeves during this whole start of the season was every corner kick headed away by the first man, wasting those opportunities when you have people like Adelson Malanda who tower above you. You have good aerial presences on the team, but we weren't utilizing them. Only scored our first goal from a corner kick last weekend in the entire season. Turning point is, it seems like with Justin Merrim, friendly face for Atlanta United, who will be back tomorrow, his service looks a lot more encouraging. So exciting to see what we can do if we are able to utilize set pieces.
I like Justin a lot. I'm going to make a shock prediction because I predicted 5 goals in the game, right?
That's kind of shocking.
Yeah, well, because I usually lean towards lower scoring.
Okay. Jarrett's doing the sickos dance over there.
I am predicting we are going to get a goal tomorrow from Amar Sadic.
Wow, that is shocking.
On a recycled corner.
Okay.
When no Charlotte FC player steps to the ball.
On an unclear, and I think Amar Sadic.
Where have I seen that before?
What's your bold prediction then? Because I've got one. Say it doesn't have to be like a goal, doesn't have to be a result, just something.
No, I'll go. No, I think Charlotte FC shuts out Atlanta United.
Really? Wow. Wow.
Hey, don't
That's
fight
bold.
me afterwards. Don't fight me. Don't fight me.
That's bold. I don't think this game's low scoring. I do think it'll be high scoring. Where I'm at is see, there you go. Good job, Jess.
I live in Peachtree City. Be nice. I live in Peachtree City. Come on.
I'm just telling you, when that crowd gets noisy tomorrow.
See what happens.
Words, you know?
See what happens. No, I think Juan Operate gets his first goal of the year.
Oh, of course he will.
I think it's I think it's from a corner that is either flicked on at the near post or headed back across. It feels like that hasn't happened yet for Atlanta United, and that's one of their usual.
I'm pretty
looks.
terrified of Parata, I'm not going to lie. Having watched him score a hat trick of headers,
he's due.
The guy is insane from set pieces. And like I say, we have not been so convincing on defending those.
Yeah, he's definitely due. And Malanda can only mark one person, so.
I think it's going to be, Bumi Akabai, if he plays.
I hope.
as Jason brought up, if he's only really fully trained one day, that seems to be against the Pineda philosophy.
In terms of starting, absolutely.
Yeah. And I think also too, there's a but each way. You really need it tomorrow. You also have to consider you're going to play again Wednesday.
Yeah.
And I know, you take it one match at a time, but I do also know that you have to look kind of long range. Yeah. And, the one thing we know is that you can give Wiley 90 minutes and then send him down south and, have Etienne.
And Caleb was incredible against Charlotte, wasn't he?
Best game of his career.
Best game of his career by far.
Best game of his career.
You got to give the kid credit. I mean, we had talked about Caleb Wiley being a factor in that game before it.
Yep.
And I think a lot of people underestimated in Charlotte the impact he was going to be able to have. And he was world class. And it seemed like that was the wake-up call for the national media to realize how good that kid could be.
Yeah, that was where the door opened. All right, I'm going to ask you, and I'll answer the same thing the other way. So what about Atlanta United worries you the most going into this?
I don't want to be stereotypical.
No.
When you have a World Cup champion,
that's the story.
When you have a World Cup champion on your team that's pulling strings, that is so dangerous. And we have changed our midfield three. We're going to have to change it most likely again with Enzo Capetti being out. Karos Swiderski is probably going to push into that number 9.
Yeah.
And therefore, we have a lack of consistency again in the midfield. Take out Derek Jones. So then you're looking at a Brian Bronico, a Ben Bender. And that's no disrespect to these guys' names, but let's be honest. Brian Bronico is not playing for Argentina. Like, I love the guy. He works his butt off. But that is a mismatch of the ages. And he's going to have to play his best soccer in his career to be able to elevate himself to that level. He will have the work rate, no doubt about that.
Yeah,
he
that's
will
part
have
of it.
the heart. He will probably have a little bit of the nastiness.
Yeah.
And that's the match that's going to be very important. I think Brian Bronico plays best when he has Derek Jones in the midfield with him. I think he's able to be himself more with the composure of Derek Jones. Take DJ out the equation and Brian Bronico isn't as effective, particularly if he's going to have a Ben Bender. And, he's only in his second season. And he has a lot of potential, but he's still a kid that hasn't been able to elevate himself to that level. So that's a rough one. Okay. But teams have been most successful against you when you have been able to shut down Armada. So I think that's the circle. If you're in the locker room right now, you're circling that as where you need to see Brian Bronico thrive.
So for the Charlotte side of things, Mackenzie Gaines will be wide right?
Yeah, should be.
I know he moves around a little bit.
I don't know the lineup. What are you talking about?
No, he's going to be typically on the right. I was trying to get the information, man. He's typically going to be on the right side. And that actually worries me in this game because of his pace. Because I do think... And
he has started to find his service.
Yeah, he has.
Give the kid some credit. He has been a hair puller out for Charlotte FC fans and analysts everywhere because the kid has so much pace, but the end product has been poopy. Like to put it bluntly, it's been poop. Now it is growing. You saw him get the assist on the goal. He had another assist on a goal that was pulled back for being offside. Yep. So if he's able to have the composure to cut the ball back, who is he serving though? Different player. Is he going to have to adjust to the movement of Karos Swiderski? How will he move versus an Enzo Capetti?
But I do think it's that cutback because Atlanta is going to be aggressive out wide, and the fullbacks are going to be very aggressive. And on that side, Andrew Gutman will run all day, and he will try to get forward. But you get him into a 1v1, Gaines is faster, and Gaines is playing with confidence. If he can turn the corner, he can create opportunities. That's what worries me from the Charlotte perspective, because I think Atlanta will bottle them up pretty well with the counter press. I don't think Charlotte will build out of the back all that well because you're going to start pinning people back. But like we were talking about with Westwood, let's play that out. So you get the wingers to drop back. You pin them. They find Westwood. Gaines takes off.
He does exactly. Look at the goal against NYCFC.
Yeah.
He turns. He finds that pocket of space, splits 2 defenders. Mackenzie Gaines is there. And as long as Karos Swiderski's making the runs, who I think Carroll is going to be extremely motivated in this one.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
It's his first opportunity to play in that number 9 role as well. And he's been great at the number 10, but I think he wants to be closer to goal at times. And he's going to try and show, hey, I'm a good option for this position as well. But he has to prove it tomorrow.
I think it's Gaines cutting back and hitting either Bender or Swiderski
Which
up
Bender
top.
has a great finish. Give him,
Yeah, I know.
give him that. Like, he has composure in front of goal, and the kid has said that's why he wants to help this side. He thinks he can offer more composure and more of that eye for goal than most of the midfielders in this squad.
So if you're Atlanta United in those situations, what you have to do, because Gaines is the one who scares me with the pace, when you counter press, you turn the ball over, Charlotte tries to build out, they get to Westwood, you've got to foul him. You've got to put him down on his back as fast as possible.
Yes, but the one good thing about Westwood, which I like, is he's not going to get rattled by that. You see players in this league that get chippy fouled constantly. They drop their heads. Westwood's a tough mother. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's a tough guy.
I'm not trying to get in his head. I'm just trying to keep him from hitting Gaines on the break.
But I think it will continue to motivate him more. I think that he will actually quite enjoy that battle. And it will kind of be like, let me show you. I can move the ball that much quicker.
And if we get Westwood and Franco Ibarra smacking each other around
in the midfield. Is this one going to end with
grief.
22 on the field?
Oh.
Could that
That's
be my
a good
bold
one. I don't know what the odds
prediction?
are in that, but that's a
I
really good
don't know
one.
if this one ends with 22 players.
I like that one. I don't know what the numbers are. Jarrett, you're the degenerate. Look it up. What are the odds on this game having a red card in it?
They actually bookmake for that?
Yeah, I think so.
Isn't that a little risky with the recent scandals?
No, we're not telling anybody to do it. We're not, incentivizing anybody to do it. I'm just curious. We're not Brazilians.
Right.
It's all good.
Well, listen, this has been like being in the kitchen watching Julia Child make soup, listening to you guys talk tactics. This has been a lot of fun.
Are you telling me to get back in the kitchen?
No, oh God, no. Oh, God, not at all. Not at all. I'm in trouble.
But bump.
I'm in trouble. Hey, stop. This has been a real pleasure.
You laid
Thank
it up
you
for me.
guys.
I'm sorry.
I'm going to make one more prediction before we end this segment. Within 2 years, I think we're going to have Atlanta playing Charlotte in a playoff game. Within 2 years.
It could happen this year, honestly.
But it could. It could.
Can I vent for a second?
Please do.
So it's rivalry week, right? And Christian Latanzio was asked about it. He said it's a rivalry.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a rivalry. There's fans that are going to travel back and forth for this. It's a rivalry. It's kind of funny that on rivalry week that's promoted by Major League Soccer, that they have all the different rivalries, even St. Louis All Cap City and Kansas City, who's never played. Thank you. That's on there. But Atlanta Charlotte was left off of the cartoon. That's a little bit of disrespect, I think, because frankly, Atlanta, Charlotte, and we'll include Nashville in this, will be nice. That trio of teams and rivalries, and the Charlotte-Nashville part, I think, has to pick up a bit. But that trio in, I'll go 2 years, will be the biggest and best rivalry in the United States because of the travel, because of you guys, because of the Charlotte fans, because of the Nashville fans, because of the teams and the ambition from all three teams.
Top three teams in attendance too.
Yeah, I mean, it will be what Cascadia wishes that it was, and it won't get recognized until 10 years down the line when somebody finally wakes up to it.
And like you say, that's all down to the fan bases. And I think
it is.
Having the pleasure to experience both fan bases during my time with Atlanta United and then moving over to Charlotte has been a privilege. And I think when I arrived in Atlanta in 2013, soccer wasn't as well appreciated. It was in the workings, but I don't think people thought about Atlanta as a soccer city.
There were 2,000 people at Silverbacks games in 2013. Yes.
So, yeah, I went to one. I went to one with my team. Thank you very much. But what I'm saying is it wasn't recognized. And now people are starting to turn heads. And being involved in the South and the soccer has just been eye-opening, incredible. And coming from England and the soccer snobbery and then coming here, best atmospheres I've ever experienced in a soccer game has been in the U.S. And I absolutely love that about it.
Well, but then again, it's just a lot of SEC fans, right? That are just
they're just here for the party, right?
Yeah, right. They're just here to party. They
check their IDs when they come in. I mean, geez.
But here we are at a rooftop bar. We've had 200 people listen to us for 30 minutes talk about tactics.
And we haven't been booed.
Right, and we haven't been booed.
Well, you were a little bit, weren't you?
I thought they were cheering for me.
We're just here to party. All right, listen. Thank you again, Scott Flood. Thank you to Derek and everyone here at Reverb. I can't wait for the 343.
You're contributing to this too.
Well, but I have to cleanly end the segment.
Yes, thank you.
So, Jess, see you tomorrow. Jason, obviously, see you tomorrow. It's been a very fun discussion about tactics for Atlanta United and Charlotte FC.